Before we begin, a quick favor. If you've been enjoying the podcast, would you consider leaving a review? It really helps others find this space and join us on their own healing journey and self-discovery. Thank you so much. Welcome back to IFS Meditations and Insights. I'm Tim Fortescue, your guide on this journey toward wholeness through the lens of internal family systems. Together, we're creating a sacred space to explore, accept, and love all parts of ourselves. As we do this work, we open ourselves to experiencing divine love and living more authentically. Today, doing something just a bit different and trying my skills at interviewing. More and more people are reaching out, and so grateful to be able to share the knowledge and what others are doing from time to time. So let's jump into my interview with Ashley Booth. Well, today Ashley Booth is joining me. Ashley's a psychotherapist, a researcher, community builder, and now author of Quieting the Storm Within, a book that we'll talk about. It's just beautifully illustrated, and she's the illustrator too. And just a good introduction to internal family systems. And the book is designed to make parts work accessible for everyone and immediately useful for therapists and practitioners. And so, yeah, Ashley, so glad that you're here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So Ashley, so glad that you're here. And for listeners new to you, just wonder if you could share just a bit about your background and what drew you into this IFS and healing work.
Yeah, it's quite a tale. So I might have to go back quite a bit further.
Take your time.
Yeah. So I was an oceanographer and marine biologist for about 9 years, doing research at Stanford and UCLA, and was deeply passionate about the oceans and our climate, and yet at the same time, it's a lot to be studying that stuff because we get into it because you feel so passionately about animals and the oceans and everything that's involved in that, and basically what you're doing is just documenting the decline, and so it's pretty rough. Concurrently at that time, I started going to Burning Man and having an experience of community and hope and creativity that felt so invigorating to me. And I have since gone to Burning Man, I think 14 times. And it really changed the course of my life. And so during those times at Burning Man, I was introduced to psychedelics, which were not what I was expecting. I came from, didn't come from any drug use growing up, and just was blown away by the beauty and the wonderment that can come from using these types of things in the right environment with the right, with a conducive environment. So that started shifting my perspective, around in kind of bigger picture thinking. And from there started getting into more intentional psychedelic use and had some really pivotal moments using psychedelics that connected me to a deeper sense of myself and something much more spiritual and divine. And it shifted. It was, the most important experience of my life. And so I was so moved by it that I felt like I'm not going to be able to help the oceans and the animals and the rainforests and everything else until we heal people. And it felt like these tools were, these psychedelics were tools to help people heal, to help people connect to something bigger than themselves. And that that healing was not just, it was sort of beyond trauma or disconnection or any of the kind of mental health conditions that we've labeled, but more a disconnection from ourself and spirit in a way that I had never, conceptualized before. I was an atheist most of my life until I started having these experiences and was so moved. And so that shifted everything for me. And so a few years after having that pivotal moment, I started a psychedelic society in Los Angeles and started working towards community building and community education around psychedelic use. And through that, got connected up to people that were doing research around psychedelics. And so the group that I got connected to was MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, which was sort of the first group that has been bringing, and many people might have noted or then heard of them because they were the ones that tried to bring MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for the treatment of PTSD through the FDA system. And so I got involved in that clinical trial with my research background and completely switched gears. And the MDMA clinical trials, the foundation or the people that do the trainings for the therapy with that, they have been steeped in internal family systems. And while we didn't do internal family systems exactly in the trials, what was so amazing was that people under the influence of MDMA started kind of organically doing internal family systems on their own because the medicine allowed more access to their self energy, and the healing just sort of kind of came from there. So during that time, I was encouraged to go back to school. And so I got a second master's degree. So I had one in marine science before, and then now have one in social work, and have since become a licensed clinical social worker and have been continuing to do research and trainings and psychedelic therapy, predominantly with ketamine. And, but internal family systems has been this beautiful, intuitive piece that came through this work. And now is sort of the foundation of my practice and my life in many ways, because it was so coherent with the experience of something deeper inside of myself that I had in those pivotal moments. So that's a long-winded way of answering your question.
Well, it's kind of, it's fascinating. There's a lot going on there, and it takes time. And I'm curious, first of all, I did want to say, I'm in rural Wisconsin, and we're in a Norwegian town, and we're about to have Burning Troll, which is modeled after Burning Man. Here, people gather out at a farm and they make this big troll, because I guess That's what trolls are in Norway. But yeah, I never experienced Burning Man when I was out west, but I've heard good things. And yeah, maybe I'll experience Burning Troll sometime.
I highly encourage you.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm curious too, your story, fascinating, and a lot, the path that you've taken, and what are there common threads or a common thread with that? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I've always been a person that has been extremely curious, and, I think deep down in my core have a childlike sense of wonder that I cherish deeply. And so, just being in awe of nature, right? And then, then seeing how psychedelics can be this piece that brings back a sense of awe, and how internal family systems weaves into that is us being able to be curious about what's blocking us from being in that deeper sense of connection. And so, yeah, I think that it's one of my kind of core principles. I think that's the through line there, but just a lot of care and passion for the natural world.
Yeah. So, and I love the playfulness too, and the childlikeness. So, and bringing that into IFS for sure. Just one more question, then I want to get into your book and talk more about that. But how has, and we had Heather Smith on the podcast. I'm still new to this interview thing, but was so grateful to talk about psychedelics with Heather. And How is that kind of the work with the map study, psychedelics? How is that, or how does that influence how you do like your IFS lens?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that one of my colleagues told me really early on about IFS, that when I was just getting into it, he's like, when you get deep into IFS, it's quite shamanic. And now that I'm kind of into that now, I really see what he's saying, especially when you think about consider Bob Faulkner's work on, unattached burdens and that kind of thing. And so we're dipping into a different world, and a world that is in this sort of visionary realm. And whether you're doing it with IFS and allowing clients to be curious about their internal world that way, or that psychedelics are kind of opening the doors of perception, there's just sort of a more openness to how weird and bizarre it can be, I guess, without shutting it down. And then also because I've had experiences of deep, deep, deep self energy, to the kind of self energy that expands into the divine, right? That Atman and Brahman kind of are reflective of one another. And so that is the bigger context in which I hold all the work that I do, and not that I'm have any agenda to push anyone towards anything, but I'm making spaces for people to discover what's true inside of them. And so I think this psychedelics offer this bigger, deeper, profound perspective that can create this, it's just a bigger container and a different perspective to be able to hold the work. And I guess I'll stop there.
Well, we could go, and the spirituality, and I've got parts that come like, how do I talk about it? How do I not? I don't want to push anyone, but
Sure.
I can't separate the two. Not that anyone has to be spiritual. There my parts come in. Like, you don't have to be spiritual, and I've heard people do without, but there's just something about that big, beautiful mystery. That is, it's a lot of my parts come up, and it's hard to know how to get into it. And that's not what we're getting into today. So maybe another time,
Sure.
because it comes up in every conversation whenever I interview folks. And so any last words there before we look at your book a little bit?
No, but I mean, I guess I'll just say that is, the context, and I don't point at that overtly in the book, but that is the what I'm holding it in, and so I'm hoping that everyone else can have that connection.
Yeah, that's great. Well, do you want to set the stage for the book a little bit?
Sure. And so for the ones that are on the video, I can hold up a copy here. So this is a little picture book. It's called Quieting the Storm Within, an illustrated introduction to your parts through internal family systems and beyond. And I wrote and illustrated it. I'm also an artist. I've been an artist my whole life, and so this was the first time kind of doing it more professionally, as it were. And it's a picture book. It's for adults and teens. And the metaphor, so the book is based in the metaphor that I think is pretty common in the IFS community, but that our self is like the sun and our parts are like clouds. And so when we have lots of parts in front of us, it blocks our self energy. And so it kind of worked out that the clouds are also like kind of those thought bubbles. And so that's kind of what I have on the front there. And so I'll use that kind of weather metaphor throughout the book a little to talk about what are parts, what are they trying to do for us, and then introduce the concept of the self. And it felt really important to me to really meet people where they were at. This book was born out of my own need as a psychotherapist, trying to introduce clients to internal family systems. And at the time, No Bad Parts hadn't come out yet. And so there weren't a lot of like easy introductions to IFS. And there was a few picture books, but either they started with the concept of the self, which I just felt like was too big of a jump for most people, or they were very simplistic. So while this book is a picture book and there's very little text, I really was trying to pull in quite a bit of nuance into the book to teach people about the model in various aspects of it, so that the idea was to be able to give the book to clients as they're coming into therapy, to be able to read something that took 20 to 30 minutes to read, and had lots of pictures. So it was really, for people that don't typically like to read, it would be still appealing and accessible. And that people would be kind of up to speed on the model and could kind of hit the ground running with their therapist. And so that I felt like I needed that tool. And so I didn't see it out there, so I created it. And so it just came out last March, and it's had a really overwhelmingly good review from everybody. And I'm excited to be going to the IFS conference just in a few weeks now, and hopefully get to meet you there and share the book with people. And so that's kind of a general overview.
Well, I look forward to that too, and to connecting more. And I will say that was one of the things, I mean, it took me forever to get back to you. And then when I looked at what you sent, I'm like, oh, another book. Am I going to have to read a book? And then I opened it up and was pleasantly surprised at, graphics and the type of book that it was. And it is, I mean, for me, it's so much more relatable, and I learn more that way, for sure. How did you decide, and you talked a little bit to this, but what to include, what to leave out, or any more words on kind of the nuance or uniqueness of what you have there?
Yeah. I mean, there were a couple things that were these sort of choice points that I, to be honest, like agonized over for quite a while. But, I chose not to use the standard IFS language around firefighters, managers, and exiles. Partly because I felt it was important to name the parts by their unburdened essences. And so, I reference both. So if people are using the standard IFS language, that's in there too. But I started calling the managers proactive helpers, and then I was calling the firefighters reactive helpers. And what I even agonized even further about was like, well, what is the essence of the unburdened exile? And it took a long time, because I was like, it really feels like our parts in their essence are the embodiment of our human needs. And it's either the exiles, when they're just those parts, that type of part, seems to be sort of feeling the experience of that need or the deficit of that need in first person. And then we have this sort of other layer of parts, which are all the helper parts, the protectors, that are attempting to meet that need. And so I still feel like I'm kind of chewing on this one, because it goes outside of what I've seen, and I've talked to lots of people in the field that have been trying to kind of look at the parts from that unburdened space. And so that was something that was a little bit different. And then, but I do try to include a lot of the dynamics. I introduced the proactive helpers, the managers, and how they try to help. I introduced polarizations. I introduced firefighters or reactive helpers, and the other, and how we, how it might become, how we might create exiles through the process of growing up. And so there's a little sort of piece around how that happens. And it introduces the concept of the self. I don't get into the unburdening process with it. That felt, I think a little, it's part of the IFS training is sort of, people need to be a little bit deeper down, and get more support to be able to kind of go through the full unburdening process. So I didn't include that, but I do include a lot of, kind of self-reflective and self-compassion exercises in the book. And I think what also came through to me, I think, because I also really love nonviolent communication, and how it focuses on our human needs and acknowledging our core kind of inherent human needs. And so that's something that I sort of point to and point out in the book too, is that it seems like, our parts are really like I said before, the embodiment of those human needs. And so when we can get clear about what core need each of our parts is trying to be in service to, it seems like it creates a deep sense of seeing and understanding, and ways to be able to find other creative solutions to be able to get those needs met that maybe aren't locked into, the kind of standard protector strategies that maybe aren't as helpful anymore.
It's helpful. And I love the idea of the proactive helpers and reactive helper. Did I get that right? And just because many times we forget in IFS, when parts aren't extreme, then they're just parts, but they still have those proactive and reactive tendencies oftentimes. And so I love that name for those. And I hadn't heard that before. So.
Yeah. Well, and just to be able to, continue to acknowledge their benevolent intent, right? That they are helpers.
Yeah. Well, I saw where Dick Schwartz, he said, that your book is a vehicle, or can be a vehicle, something like that, to anyone so they can quickly comprehend IFS. How'd that land for you?
Yeah, it was lovely. Yeah. I mean, his quote was longer than that, and it was a really heartening. And, when I sent it to him at first, I was definitely a little bit nervous because I wasn't sure if I was going to be stepping on any toes, not using the standard IFS language. But we kind of found a way to include both and have it. But he was, he's just so gracious and just kind of like wanting this to kind of go on and take a life of its own. And so that felt good. And I finally got to meet him at the Psychedelic Science Conference in June for the first time. So that was lovely. And so it felt good to be able to know that, because most of the research that went into the book was, I'd done a lot of reading, but a lot of it was just me sitting and exploring my own inner system and obviously learning from my clients as well. But just to know that, we are kind of pointing at coming to the same conclusions, even if we're not necessarily like learning it from someone else, but we're just learning it firsthand. So that felt good.
It's just a natural, and I definitely have those stepping on toes parts with this podcast, like parts say, who are you to be doing stuff like this? Or when someone like you reaches out that Dick Schwartz endorsed their book, I'm like, wow. But it does just kind of flow, and we, at least what I'm finding, and still open to something else, but same conclusions that we're getting to or toward. And that's what I love about this IFS connection, for sure.
Yeah. And I think what I'm getting excited about now that this one's gone through the whole process and been published and everything like that, I'm looking forward to kind of like what books are now kind of coming out of me now. And for a while I was like, well, do I do more books that are kind of more didactic, where we just kind of dive into one topic a bit more? And that was feeling a bit forced. And what feels like is coming through now is more just kind of like vignettes around what it's like to live life through the lens of internal family systems. Yeah. And when we follow that, where do we get to? And so, so I'm working on some new projects, and I'm excited and just kind of seeing what continues to come out of the ethers.
Well, I love it. And just the affirmation of creativity. And I feel that
Sure,
too in this
sure,
stuff. And I've
sure.
never been able to, yeah, just be flow like we're flowing. And I'm so
Mm.
grateful. And I look forward to what comes out and kind of where we end those vignettes. Yeah, sounds exciting. So, yeah,
Yeah.
more to come. It's good.
Yes, exactly.
Well, let's look just a little more. And I wanted to let folks know too that I do post this podcast on YouTube. And so if you're listening and you want to go back and watch it so you can see and maybe see Ashley holding up the book, I'll put that in the link so you can find it there. But Ashley, so if someone brand new to parts work, IFS, find your book, maybe feel stormy inside, how might they use it as a first step? Any insight
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. It's like I said, it's really designed to help, like really start people, eh, meet people where they're at. And so we start with sort of what is it like to have that stormy mind and just a swirl of different thoughts and perspectives that just feel like this jumble, and really helping people start to kind of unblend from each of the different parts to be able to start to be curious about each of them. And I use a couple exercises in the book to encourage people to expand on that process. And one of the first exercises, which was an art therapy directive that Alicia Dabney came up with, and I sort of adapted it a little bit and got her permission to use it in the book. But it's just to fold a piece of paper 3 times and then fold it back out again and have these different squares. And then being able to ask the question sort of like, who's here? And in the first square to kind of draw what part is first up, So, I mean, her directive was more just kind of entirely draw it, but you can draw, maybe write a few words. And then after about 30 seconds, you can say, okay, who else is here? And then explore whatever part is next. And then you put that in the next box, and you can do that for all the different boxes. And so it's just a way to start to kind of untangle all these different voices and perspectives in a way that I find, and what I've seen in my clients find to be very soothing to be able to kind of pull it out and look at the parts, get a different perspective, a little bit of separation.
Yeah.
And it
Just giving a way to
reduces the
start.
clutter. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that it can unfold, and it does. Yeah.
yeah.
Such a beautiful, yeah, for sure. Good. Anything else there? I cut you off, but
No, no, no. I think it's. No, I think that's it for now.
okay. Well, if more comes, what would you say to folks who may have protectors up that are suspicious about even going inside or exploring
Mm-hmm.
a new resource or
Mm-hmm.
any
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
insight there?
Yeah, I mean, we'll always kind of come back to curiosity, right? What might be in what part of us might be feeling a little bit threatened, and why? What need is that trying to help us with, right? And so I encourage people to just kind of take it slow and um, get curious about what it is that they're, a lot of the work that I do as well is around clarifying what people's values are. And so when we can be clear about what those values are, and, for many clients or many people that are interested in this work, it's, growth and more internal harmony. And
Mhm.
so when we can be clear about that, then we can start to look for resources that might be helpful for us to be able to embody and live our values more. So that
Yeah.
might be a way to think about it.
Love it. Love it. Well, anything else just on the more average, not devaluing average people, but non-IFS practitioners and clients who may be using the work, and then we can is there anything there, and then we can look at maybe how practitioners can
Sure.
use this as a resource.
Yeah, I think it's just that this book is it's accessible to so many people, and so I have a lot of people. The little problem that I have had is because it is a picture book. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, I gave it to my 7-year-old," and I was like, that might be a little bit young. So I encourage parents to like review the book, because there is a mention of, suicidal ideation in the book, and how that can be a part of people's systems. And so there might be some more adult, that there's kind of that one thing. So if you just read through the book before you hand it to your kids. But for teens, I find that, it's been very accessible to parents. And I've had clients that have left it out, and their teenage kid picked it up and was like, oh my God, this is so me, and felt very, very related to it. So that felt good, that I'm reaching a lot of different kinds of audiences that it's resonating with.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what about for therapists, practitioners? I know sometimes less is more, sometimes people want more. How do you balance that? And how would you recommend therapists and practitioners? Would you recommend, sounds like you would, but weaving this into client work?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just sort of share the way that I use it. So when I have someone that's coming in that is wanting to do IFS work, I say, I've written this book and it takes about 20 minutes to read. I'll send you a digital copy of it. So, or, I mean, I can give out a free copy because it's my book, but, clients therapists can recommend, because they can download a Kindle version of the book, like, and have it instantly and read through it, and, or they can buy a hard copy depending on what they like. But, being able to give it to clients as they're coming in, and then you have immediately right out the gate a shared vocabulary. And then at the end of the book, and what I recommend to clients too, if they're like really interested in learning more, then I will recommend No Bad Parts for ones that want to seep themselves a little bit more in it. But I find that most of the people that read the book, that jumping to that next, I would say only like maybe 1 in 10 will want to dive deeper into the work in that kind of way. But people want to be able to get to the state of harmony and healing faster. And so, they've got a lot of eager parts. And so, if we can get them up to speed faster, it can be
But it can help them
satisfying.
break it down, and you can kind of give it to them. And if they want more or have questions,
Yeah,
then you
exactly.
can go deeper with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll go through the exercises and how they, what came up for them as they were reading it. And, and then we continue to use some of the exercises throughout the therapy. I've also created a whole bunch of different worksheets, which are available on the book website, that I give to clients too, that are kind of like how to look at how to make a worksheet around each of your different parts, how to make kind of set up dialogues between you and your parts, and a lot of other things. So those are all freely available on the website.
What is then, we'll do this at the end too, but while
Sure.
you're mentioning it, I mean,
Sure.
feel free to throw out any websites, resources
Sure.
Where would people find that?
Yeah. So the book website is ifsandbeyond.com.
Okay.
And then also, if you're on Instagram or TikTok, it's the same, IFS and Beyond. So
Okay.
I've been
Got it.
doing little animations and little teaching moments on Instagram, which has been kind of fun way to things that didn't really make it into the book. I've been kind of doing these little illustrations and animations, so that's been fun. So you can
Well, and Ashley did a great resource that'll be coming out next week, as she recorded a meditation with the visuals and all, and I'll be posting that in the next episode too, so you'll want to check that out. Yeah. So grateful for that.
It was fun.
Yeah, well, it was fun to listen to, and I look forward to putting that out there. Is there a particular part of the book that you think really highlights something well, or that really shines, that excites you, that you may want to share?
Yeah. I think it's really about the core needs piece of the whole thing. I haven't really seen that so much in the rest of the IFS community. And it's the more I've gotten into that, it seems so important that we're really tying back and getting a deeper understanding of the parts and how they're trying to serve our system and the various needs that we have. So that was kind of the thing that came out of this whole thing that was kind of unexpected.
Hmm.
And I guess another piece of that too was just sort of, I don't know, the playfulness of how I presented this work in the book. You know, they're little cartoon characters, little clouds and smiley sunshine faces, and you know, it's just trying to bring a bit of levity to, you know, what can feel like a lot of hard work. You know, when we're slogging through trauma and all sorts of things, and so I think that can speak to and hopefully inspire some of our, you know, younger, more innocent, childlike parts.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that playfulness, which is one of those P's as
Yep.
practitioners we're encouraged to be aware of. But yeah, I think that's my favorite. I really love the playfulness. And
Yeah.
maybe that's why I'm on here with finger puppets from time to time on my YouTube channel. But man, it's silly, but it's fun and
Totally.
feels good and feels right. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's see just a couple more questions, and then I'll let you, whatever I didn't ask that you want
Mm-hmm.
to share, and I want you to be able to, yeah, make sure people know where to find you. But is there one, and you talked about this a little bit, but just like common misunderstandings about IFS that the book helps clear up more, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like maybe those core needs that you were talking about, but
Mm-hmm.
anything
Mm-hmm.
else there? Yeah.
Well, what it seems, because it's so visual, you know, and I've been, you know, when people post reviews on Amazon, which I'm always reading them because it's lovely,
Yeah.
but people have been giving some really beautiful reflections and saying things like, you know, I was really confused by IFS, you know, or it was just it felt too abstract or inaccessible to me.
Mhm.
And this really helped bring it home. And I feel really moved by it. And so somehow bringing it into the visual field
Mhm.
helps. And also like the spatialness of it in a way. I'm dyslexic. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I love, or well, I feel like I really can use IFS as well as I do, because the way I think is very visual and it's very spatial. So
Mhm.
when I'm doing IFS with my clients, I'm trying to envision what's happening in their internal in their internal system, and then asking like, okay, well, how far or close are you to that part? You know, how big or tall is it? You know, what is it? You know, like what's happening in
Mhm.
space around that? And so I think when we can pull it into that spatial visual realm, it helps people at least
Yeah.
conceptualize it a bit better. Not to say that all of our parts are visual or anything like that. I mean, but it just, we have to get a lot of the thinking parts kind of on board.
Yeah.
And even if we're sort of simplifying it, then that seems to kind of help facilitate the process, because then you can kind of keep digging in deeper from there. But there needs to be some sort of general
Something
framework.
has to click for that trust.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's hard to find. And when you do, or when people start saying, wow, this really helped me get it,
Mm-hmm.
feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
needed,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, well, what else? It's kind of as we head toward the
Yeah.
end here.
Well, I would point people to the book website, because, like I said, there's free worksheets on there. I also, for people that are on the video here, I will show. I made these because I wanted them, but I made little mugs with the
Love it.
characters on them. So here's one that's like, today is a self-care day, and it's got a picture of the sun that's a self, and then I've got one of my favorite illustrations of like one of the parts being really sweetly held in some hands. So I made a bunch of different kinds
Love it.
of mugs, because it makes me feel happy when I'm drinking my tea and having my with my clients. So there's stuff like that, and magnets and stickers and journaling activities and
So
all sorts
people
of
can
things.
get the
So
merch. there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you know, people have been enjoying having just ways to kind of continue to keep the playfulness theme, and also ways to remind themselves of like their parts, or different kinds of things like that. So that's on there. And then yeah, and then I do a lot of teaching and consulting, especially people that are getting into the field, either that are new to IFS, or at the intersection with internal family systems and psychedelics. Um, because I've been in this field for a long time, and so helping people transition and move their practices. So I'm available for that too. So you
And they
can
can
reach
all
out to me.
find you at that same website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the website is IFS and Beyond, and if you want more of the consulting or to get a hold of me personally, my therapy website is ashleybooth.net. So you can find out more about those services there. So yeah.
Got it. Well, just one more question.
Yeah.
Just curious, which part of you feels most grateful to have this resource in the world?
I think it's those younger, playful parts that are
Hmm.
inside, that just like to bring creativity and wonderment to the world. Yeah, it feels
Yeah,
good to
and
share
those are
that.
those, I mean, protectors too, but yeah, my little tender ones, they've got so much to offer, and
Totally,
they don't have to be
totally.
pushed down anymore. They can shine. And when others see that, yeah, there's a need for that in the world. There's a need
Yeah,
for that playfulness. And yeah,
yeah. It seems like,
so great.
I mean, I think we say that like self is contagious, right? But I think that like those unburdened childlike parts are also contagious in the same kind of way, or maybe when they're kind of charged through the energy of the self, um, it helps other people, give them permission to be in that in the inside themselves.
Yeah, and man, the world's looking for that, and we need it. And
Yeah,
not that we
yeah,
all have to be like everyone, but I'm surprised, much like when you get the reviews of your book, like, wow, people are looking for this authenticity and where they
yeah,
can be real and be playful.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, thank you, Ashley. Does that feel complete?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for just being here, for reaching out and putting up with my lagging and responding, and just for your wisdom. And just to everyone listening, just hope this conversation can remind us all that, yeah, maybe cliche, but we can keep saying it. There are no bad parts,
Yeah.
only our parts. Yeah, we're all longing for that compassion and care. And yeah, you're not alone. I'm not alone. And we're in this
Yeah.
together. And yeah, check out this book. I'm looking forward to looking into it more and using it in my practice too. But so grateful for you, Ashley, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, and I hope everybody enjoys and follows up and gets to hear the meditation next week. And um, it was fun doing the little animation that goes along with it. So you can maybe listen to it first on your own, but then find the animation on YouTube, because that was another
Yeah,
little
well, I'm
playful
looking.
element to
Often
it.
I do these as often I do these as special episodes, but this one and the next one is my podcast for the week. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I look forward to folks. Yeah, check it out, and I'll do it right alongside, and look forward to engaging too. But thanks so much, and I look forward to staying connected. So.
Yeah, me too. Bye.
That wraps up another episode of IFS Meditations and Insights. If you found value in today's session, please follow, subscribe, and share with others who might benefit. Your positive review helps more people discover this healing work. For more IFS meditations and resources, visit exploreifs.com. And until our next session, be gentle with yourself.